acknowledgement, just love so I can be me. I'm tired of hearing it's okay not to be okay. Just want the dark days to go away. Mentally, how are you? Yeah. I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want to.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuning into today's first episode of Mentally How Are You? I'm your host, Neena Lock, and it is my plan to provide you with all things mental health and beyond. First, I'd like to start with telling you a little bit about myself. I'm actually an Aurora resident. I was born and raised here, this great city that we are in, and I received my high school diploma from West. Shouts out to the Blackhawks. I then moved forward to Chicago, to the Windy City, and it is my second home, and received my degrees within mental health, community counseling, and behavioral sciences. I am now the owner of a private practice, and I hold group therapies as well as individual counseling for individuals. And with doing that, I decided that I wanted to host a show to provide more information because of the climate that we're in right about now, but also because we need more information about mental health at this time. It's great that we are now understanding how important it is, but now we need to speak deeper into what we should be doing and how we should be moving forward. So on this episode, what I'm going to do is give you a rundown of how this show will go every Friday at 11 a.m. And from there, we'll just get to know each other show by show. One of our first segments that we're going to go into is titled Mind Matters. With this segment, what I'm going to do is introduce just different topics to you in the mental health field that are prominent right now and that we need to understand better. As I said, we have been teaching and proclaiming that mental health matters and it is important. Now it seems as if everyone has caught on. I believe our COVID time provided all the more understanding. However, with understanding how important your mental stability is, I'm aware that it is difficult for individuals to take the next step securing services. So, on this episode, we will discuss how you can secure those services, what steps to take and how to push through frustrations that come with it, as well as just where to go to find the help that you need. So what I'll start with is reviewing some of our ways to get into the mental health arena. One way is to review insurance options. If you are an individual who is insured, then it would be important for you to go over your medical card that you have and contact what is called a care coordinator. So if you have private insurance, you have a 1-800 on the back of your medical card. If in Illinois here you have Medicaid, you also have a 1-800 number on the back of that card, and you will be connected to a care coordinator if you ask for that. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know that everyone uses the title care coordinator. It may differ or vary depending on insurance provider. By example, Blue Cross Blue Shield may call it a care manager. And then if you have Medicaid, let's say, and you are covered by Molina may have what's called a care coordinator. Just ask for someone who is in charge of caring for your care. When you speak with this individual, they will then go on a prompt where they'll ask you for your zip code, maybe your full address, and they'll want to know what services you require. Let them know that you need help finding a mental health provider, whether it be a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist, whatever your needs are. Don't keep your mouth closed on this topic because it is literally the care coordinator's job to go out and find everybody possible for you to see. They will let you know who's covered. They will also let you know, if you have a copay. They'll let you know if you have to pay something after services. So by example, when you go forward in a mental health session, you'll speak with a counselor like myself one-on-one. Let's just for pretend right now, say that your session costs $200. Some insurance providers will require you to pay $50 either before you see the provider or $50 after. So it just depends on which provider you have. These are the type of questions to ask your care coordinator. That way you don't run into any frustrations as you move forward with receiving your care. Okay, so once you speak with the care coordinator, the bottom line is that you're going to kind of set yourself up as if they are a pre-therapist or a pre-psychiatrist for you, because you're going to give them all of the information that is needed so that they can give you a list of individuals that you can contact where you will be covered and your insurance will take care of everything. Now, let's say that you don't have insurance and it's a little bit more difficult. With that, it would be a different route because you would need to visit different websites. Some of those websites I have written here. Give me 1 second. One of the biggest ones is Psychology Today. Another good one is goodtherapy.org. And then an even better one is betterhelp.com. With those providers, sometimes they provide what's called out-of-pocket clients, out-of-pay pocket clients, or a private pay client. So let's say you may not be covered by insurance, but you possibly have some money set to the side, or you have family members who are willing to help pay for a couple of sessions for you. You would go onto these websites, type in your zip code or your address again, and they will show you a list of certified and verified providers who are in your area that you can work with. Those individuals normally have everything listed on these websites. They'll tell you what insurance they cover. They will give you a good estimate of money, of how much they're charging, right? Like what you would have to pay out of pocket. Some of them work on a sliding scale, meaning that even if their session was that $200 that we talked about in the very beginning, they will say, okay, we understand that your needs are not being met elsewhere and you need help. So what we'll do is, instead of charging you $200, we'll charge you $100 and we'll give you this amount of time to pay it off. Once you pay it off, you'll be able to go into your next session with them. So it just depends provider to provider on how that would work, but ask those questions. I noticed that a lot of individuals, one of the biggest frustrations that we run into when trying to find mental health services is that we do not ask for what we need, or we don't ask further questions. We'll leave a situation and still have something on our minds, or we won't be sure about what it is. So we'll continue to just move forward and not receive the help, which is what's happening now. A lot of individuals are saying that mental health is important, and it is Mental Health Awareness. So Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm sure that you are seeing a lot of posts and stories and, just different information about mental health services right now. But one of the things that you must understand is that you have to move forward with asking questions in order to receive the care that you really need. So again, these websites are Psychology Today, goodtherapy.org, and BetterHelp. If you have insurance, then flip that card over and call the 1-800 line and ask to speak with your care coordinator or care manager. Now, some of you may be looking at me like, Neena, come on now, if I don't have insurance, then I'm not able to pay out of pocket. Don't worry, I got you. I can provide you with local and national hotline services that are right here for you to receive care. One of the main ones right now that you may see a big campaign for is the 988 line, for national hotline for suicide prevention as well as crisis episodes. Okay, that line right now, you can call and you will get somebody on the other line. They'll answer your questions. They'll meet you where you are. They'll also tell you where you can go to receive free services. Sometimes free services looks like visiting a church, a community center. Sometimes you do have to go to your local hospital so that they can begin a process to possibly get you started with insurance. But either way it goes, calling the 988 line will help you out very well. Also, there is, what do I have written down here? There is the National Sexual Assault Hotline. That one is 1-800-656-4673. For individuals who have children and maybe your youth is in crisis, connect them with SAS through the CARES line. That's a 1-800 line, 345-9049. The way that CARES work is it's almost like calling 911. You call CARES, you'll get an operator on the line, and what they will do is they'll receive information from you. So they may ask, what is the crisis? What is the youth feeling right now? What are they saying that they want to do? And after they gather information from you, this is another individual that will ask for your address and your information, if you have insurance or if you don't. If you don't, it's fine to say that. Don't be nervous about that part. This is what CARES is for, because a part of what they do is, outside of answering the crisis call, they also connect you with services that will help you receive insurance. So they'll gather all of this information from you. Make sure that you are the adult that's covering this child. So meaning you're either the guardian or you are the parent, directly to this child. They'll gather this information and they will have somebody come out, a counselor, meet you on site, complete an assessment, and then they'll go over one of probably the top 3 options that you could receive from CARES, which is, let's say the crisis is really heavy and that child needs to be hospitalized. They'll do that. Maybe they'll say it's not that serious where they need to be hospitalized, but they do need a program from the hospital. This is called a partial hospitalization. It's where you go to the hospital during the day and you engage in those services, maybe group therapy, individual therapy. The child will see a psychiatrist and counselor and therapist or a social worker, and they'll come home at the end of the day. So school will be missed. However, it will be covered for you. Then if that's not the option, they'll say, okay, you don't need that full on, but what you need is maybe a group therapy program that you visit once or twice a week. So they'll take you through each step and they'll help you maintain insurance or receive insurance depending on what your circumstances is. So again, the CARES line is 1-800-345-9049. One of the great things that Aurora has right now is that we have a crisis center within our police department. So anybody who's just in crisis right now, or let's say you say, I don't really know what crisis means. I'm not in a position where I don't want to be here anymore, but I'm very stressed. I'm very strained. I just don't feel good overall, and I'm not sure of what to do. Then you can simply call 911. They'll connect you to the crisis center with the Aurora Police Department. And once that happens, there are social workers as well as trained officers that will come on site and help you kind of in a similar way like what I just described with CARES. The difference is that CARES and SAS that program is for youth. So you have to be 20 and under in order to receive services from CARES and SAS. However, with the crisis center, they service anyone and everyone. If you have a child, you can call. If it's yourself, you can call. If it's a neighbor, you can call. Now, I do want to say this. We will have the crisis center come on the show as a guest, which I'm really excited about. But I know that there are a lot of individuals who are a little bit nervous about reaching out to authorities, especially right now at this time, because we're unsure of what's going on completely within our nation. What I would like to give is a little bit of guidance of how to do this because everyone doesn't have a crisis center. I'm excited that Aurora Police Department has this crisis center, but every police department doesn't have this. What you can do if they don't have a crisis center is when you make the call, let it be known that this is a call for mental health services and you don't know where else to call. Let them know a crime has not been committed, but you're calling because someone is experiencing a mental health episode or crisis. Once you do that, the individual should take the information in that manner. However, you can also ask, since you are coming to respond to crisis, can you make sure that the officers come on scene with no lights and no sirens? I know to some of us that may sound impossible, but it is possible. This is a request that police departments take. So ask the officers to come on site with no sirens and no lights. For anyone who's having a moment with their mental health, when a police officer shows up, it helps decrease the scene when they show up without their sirens and without any lights, because it takes away the crime effect of everything and it shows that someone is showing up for their mental health care. So if you have to call 911 and you know that there's no crisis center within your area, that's okay. Just make these requests and then make sure to continue to reiterate that this is for a mental health crisis. This is a mental health episode that you are seeing, and they will be sure to take safer steps to make sure that we avoid situations that we have seen previously throughout the news. Another thing that can help out is to make sure that when they do arrive and they're on site, have that individual who's experiencing the episode be in a space to themselves. Not a lot of people around. I've seen videos and different things where neighbors are out and people are yelling and screaming. That only heightens the situation. And I don't even mean for the police department or the police officers. I mean for the individual who's experiencing the crisis. When you are at a heightened level and you don't know what you want to do in life, when you're nervous, fearful, and just extremely scared, it is hard to have a lot of noise and frustration and different things going on around you. So it will make someone act out in a manner that we don't desire, right? Or that could lead to something further. So be sure to allow that individual space, give them something like water to drink so that they can stay calm. And I think at the end of the episode, you may receive a toolbox technique that would help out with how to move forward with helping someone stay calm until police arrive on the scene. So hopefully within this segment, I have been able to help you with how you can acquire services for your mental health and your mental needs. Our next segment that we'll normally go into each and every Friday again on this show is pop psych versus clinical psychology. Let's discuss self-diagnosing and understanding symptoms. I'm aware of the many tests online that tell you if you may have ADHD or if you are on the autism spectrum. While these tests can prove to be helpful, it is important to know that psychological testing is better than, and healthier actually, a healthier route to go when trying to understand what is happening in your life. Self-diagnosing can be dangerous in that you may miss important criteria needed to provide you with a proper diagnosis. And improper diagnoses can lead to a lack of services and improper treatment. So it's important to speak with a professional in order to sift between an actual diagnosis or symptoms that could prove to possibly be just simply traits for you. Now, let me explain what I mean to you by traits. When we go online and we complete these tests, I've seen a lot of clients and different individuals that come to sessions and they want to know, did I have ADHD as a child and it just wasn't diagnosed for me or nobody paid attention? This is very possible. Okay, it's very possible that you could have a diagnosis from your youth that was just never seen or overlooked, or maybe you come from a family who didn't believe in mental health services, because we know that that is a stigma and it's a thing. That's okay. It's a great space now to be in to say, I want to look further and see, what goes deeper for me. The problem with doing an online test is that it can only test you on your traits. It can't go further into, your DNA, your RNA. It can't go further into cells. It can't go further into different forms and ways that you think. It just gives you a general answer. It's kind of like when we go online and we test what's your love language. Sure, you can pick one or two of them, which is always two, right? It's never just one love language. You can pick one or two of them, but that doesn't give the depth of how you want to receive that love truly. It just gives you a surface answer as to what a love language is, but it doesn't give details for it. When you go through psychological testing, there is heavy criteria that you have to actually meet in order to have a mental health diagnosis. It's not just as simple as saying, well, you know what, sometimes I'm a little hyper, sometimes I can't pay attention to this or that, or sometimes I get lost in conversation and I don't hear people and I blank out. Sure, those traits can be traits and symptoms of an ADHD diagnosis. However, they can be symptoms of trauma as well. So you could struggle with PTSD symptoms, right? Sometimes in this field, things can look similar. So it's very important that you speak to a professional who would be able to help you with knowing and understanding exactly what it is that you're experiencing. Another thing I want to point out is that when we seek these, for now I'm going to say diagnoses online through these tests, it's very difficult for us at times because we're seeking a label to prove to us that we have a problem. And that is not the overall effect, thought, or belief of mental health and mental health services. It's not about you having a problem that needs to be fixed or something being completely wrong with you. These things are just like any medical diagnoses that you could receive. It's the same way with mental health diagnoses. So, for example, you wouldn't go online and just fill out check boxes to see if you were diabetic. You would go to a doctor to see if this is what is within your blood, and also to understand if you need to take insulin or if you need to change your diet so that you don't even have to take medication, let's say. But sometimes when you're diabetic, you can change your diet and then you can move forward with life in a healthier manner. This is the same thing for mental health. Sometimes you may just have traits of depression, or sometimes you may have traits of anxiety, but it doesn't always mean that you have an actual anxiety diagnoses or depressive diagnoses. So I think that a huge thing that's going on right now with social media are the online tests, and also just hearing podcasts where individuals are speaking about what the label could be, what you're going through. And a lot of that is someone's opinion. It's not even trained professionals. So I would say, just like you would see a trained professional for your medical care, do the same with your mental health care. Go and seek help, seek services from an individual who has been educated within this field to understand, to know, and to provide you with the best answers so that you can actually get on a journey to treat your mental health in the way that it should be treated, okay? I always like to say a way to help eliminate the stigma around mental health services is allowing professionals to provide what they have been educated with and trusting the process and the journey from there versus trying to figure it out on your own. One of the many stigmas that we do see, it's very active right now, is that individuals are trying to figure it out on their own. Oh, well, I think I have these symptoms, so I'm going to do this. And sometimes it may be more than just taking one act or one step. Taking a walk outside is great. Journaling is great, but sometimes you need prompts to know what to journal about. And that's where a professional would come in. Sometimes you need to walk a little longer than what you're walking, or take maybe a different site or trail so that you can truly receive the deep breathing techniques that are needed through your walking to help you out. The bottom line is, do not let pop psych take over where it's clinical. Okay, so I'm going to have fun with this segment as we move forward every Friday, guys. The next segment we'll go into is mentally, how are you? Here we will discuss a viewer's questions and concerns regarding treatment they're receiving, let's say symptoms, traits, and understanding how to navigate changes in their mental state. Now, with today being our first episode, I, of course, am not able to give you the information that was needed before this episode and to email in a question to me. So I will read a question received from individuals in an open discussion that I held from previous weeks, and we'll try to see what answer I can give to them. Now, I always tell people, if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find the next best individual to give it to you. So I've never been the person that will say, oh, sure, let me, make this up in this moment. If I don't know, I'm just going to say that I don't know. And I hope that that doesn't offend or make anyone upset, but it should be a good thing. But that's how I work. So anybody who writes in, I will let you know that I don't have an answer, but what it will do is prompt me and trigger me to have someone on the show that could better answer a question. So for today, I picked out just a simple one from a group that I held. I had a group maybe 3 weeks ago and asked individuals what they would like to hear, see, know, and understand from this show. And there were many questions, and I picked a few out of a hat. Today, I'm going to start with just this one, and we'll see how far that takes us. This is from a woman in her late 30s, and she has written that she works in finance and she's doing well, however, could be doing better. Her question is, I've seen therapists throughout my life for anxiety. It began as a fear to attend school as a toddler to being nervous in my career. I decided to start seeing a life coach 2 years ago because a friend said I should. I like my life coach, but there are things she has been unable to help me with, like why I suffer with anxiety overall. But the one therapist that I had that I like is now retired. What should I do, and why can't my life coach help me with deeper stuff? Mentally, I'm drained. I'm so sorry to hear that you are drained. I understand this process oh too well. So I'll say this, to answer this, I'm going to be very safe. One, because you're giving me a little bit of details, but not everything, right? It's not like we're having a session together. So I'm just going to go off of what you have written and try to talk through it and around it to best answer this question. One, I'll begin with you're saying that you suffer with anxiety throughout your life, and it began as a fear to attend school as a toddler. Normally, when things like this go on, it can be associated with attachment disorder. It could be associated with trauma. It really just depends. So you do need to sit with a therapist and speak about those signs, those symptoms. This is where you need to talk to your elders, individuals in your lives, like your parents, grandparents, if you have older siblings, and ask questions about, well, how did I act and what did I say, if they can remember it, right? Because you're saying you're in your 30s now, so sometimes people can't remember things from their childhood. But I would say to ask people around you how you behaved, what your response was. Like, were you yelling and screaming? Would you cry? Maybe you couldn't hold food down when it was time to go to school. I would tell you to gather this information, journal it out, write it out, and take it to a therapist, okay? Because whenever we struggle with something from childhood and it's still with us today, it's a heavy form of anxiety. It's more than just anxiety. It may be post-traumatic stress disorder, or it may be something like generalized anxiety associated with another diagnosis. So definitely connect with a therapist or a counselor again. As for your life coach information, let me be very nice to life coaches. Let me say that I like them. I think it's a great field, and I like that it's actually come along. I like that some life coaches work with therapists, and some life coaches are actually therapists themselves. They received their degree, but they decided to get a certificate in coaching as well. So nothing against them, but I'm smiling only because sometimes people do go to see a life coach as, a filter or a second option, or I'll say it like this: instead of seeing a counselor or a therapist, they'll go and see a life coach thinking they can receive the same services, and you cannot. So with life coaches, they do not have mental health training. Okay, that's not something that they go through. They do not have the ability to diagnose or to treat mental health conditions. They do hold certifications at times, but not all of them always do. By example, and please don't get mad at me, life coaches, but anybody can call themselves a life coach. You don't have to go through any training for it. Let's just say you're really good at planning, really good at helping somebody organize. You can call yourself a life coach and you can help people with that. However, there are some individuals who go through certifications to learn things like what I just described to help people. Right? So it's just important to know that they're not medically or professionally licensed. They can receive a certification, but they're not licensed to help with these deeper issues that you've written about. And they focus on goal setting or, like I said, organizing your life. And normally with a life coach, you pay out of pocket, which is the other reason why I'm smiling, because if you can pay out of pocket to see a life coach, that means that you either have private insurance or you can pay out of pocket to see a really good counselor or therapist in a private practice. So I would encourage you to keep your life coach, because I do think that it's a good thing to have someone to help you organize. And you did say that it helps. So move forward with them, okay? However, it is time to come up out of that fear and to come up out of complacency from having a therapist that you really liked. I get how that goes. It's great when you connect with somebody and they really do help you. But it's time to move forward clearly, because you're still experiencing the issues and concerns that you originally came to therapy for. So maybe my suggestion to you would be to see a therapist and to keep your life coach and see how the two of them can help you together. But as for your direct question of why your life coach can't help with this information, it's just because they're not trained to go deeper. But that's what a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist is for. And I just want to make sure that I cover all of your questions and I've given you what you should do. See both of them, and I think you'll be a winner with that. Okay. So see, that's simple and easy. You guys write to me and I'll give you all of the information that you need to move forward. I know I kept looking at my paper and what I want to say. What I want to say is that we sometimes can say, I liked a certain therapist or a counselor, and so now I don't want to move forward with someone new. This is where it becomes kind of difficult in therapy or counseling. And I know that's strange for me to say because I'm sitting before you saying that I'm a counselor. But sometimes we can become attached to individuals, and that defeats the purpose of what you're seeing them for. So if you feel like you're becoming attached, or you see your therapist as a friend, you see your counselor as I've heard some people say, my therapist is like a family member. Those things are not true. We are here to help treat whatever traits you place before us and to move you forward to becoming a healthier version of you and giving you tools and equipment to continue to grow into that healthier version of you. Okay. It's not for you to become attached and to need us nonstop. So if you were seeing a therapist and you really like that individual, I would say to sit down and write out why you really like that individual, to see if you can find those same traits in maybe certifications or license or, different specialties with other individuals, and then follow through with them. If what you list out just shows that you were comfortable, then that means that maybe you should be a little bit more open to seeing someone new for sure, because you need to step out of that comfort. That comfort can sometimes cradle anxiety, right? Because when you experience anxiety, you can be so revved up that any space where it's comfortable or you receive what seems like a little bit of peace, you don't want to move from. But that's also bonding you. It's keeping you in bondage, which is one of the things that anxiety can do. So I would challenge you to be a little bit more open and see a new individual that can help you. But again, you can see the two together. Thank you guys for letting me go back on that question. But yes, I want you guys to write into me. Give me your questions. Let me know what you want to talk about on this show or what you have questions about concerning your individual life. You can be anonymous. You don't have to give me any of your information. This person volunteered to give the little bit that they gave, but you can just simply write in and with your question. The way to reach me is mentallyhowareYou@gmail.com. Okay. And everything that I'm listing today, I'm going to try to make sure that we list or pin in some type of way on this episode. One of our final segments that we will go into every week is our toolbox techniques. Here we will review techniques and strategies one can use to cope with symptoms, feelings, thoughts, and disruptions. Today we will discuss the importance of unplugging, one of my favorites. There is a lot going on around us, to say the least. Many individuals may be feeling extremely overwhelmed, nervous, anxious, and unsure of how to move forward. When in these times, it's very important for us to follow the step-by-step guide just reviewed in an effort to receive services. However, I understand how seeking those services on top of feeling what we are feeling can be frustrating and irritating at times. I believe it would be best for us to take time to unplug. That's right. I said it. Unplug. It's time to unplug from social media, unplug from news stations, unplug from podcasts that carry a lot of opinion versus fact, unplug from doom scrolling, just completely unplug. It's not necessary for us to monitor news, the media, and especially popular opinions all day, every day. A wiser choice and a mentally healthy decision would be to unplug and engage in coping mechanisms or simply family time that will remove you from the nation's concerns. Unplugging does not mean that you will miss out on, you won't miss out or you will never receive the information that you need. It means that you are preserving your mental status in an effort to not be consumed by things that you cannot control. And I think that is what is very important to understand about this coping skill. When you use the coping skill of unplugging, it is you surrendering to the fact that you are worried and concerned about things that you cannot control. Right now, we can't control a lot of what I'm hearing people being very concerned about and has you engulfed in anxiety. We can't control the prices of things. We can't control who's running things right now. We just know that this is what's going on. So rather than flooding yourself with so many thoughts about what should be happening, what could be going on, how people should have voted, right? Arguing with family and friends in a family group chat. Instead of doing these things or doom scrolling, right? And watching every bad clip video that now we don't even know if it's AI or the real person talking about what's to come and what's going to be happening. I would say that we need to schedule time where we remove ourselves from these outlets so that we can balance and self-regulate. So what I'd like to do, again, every Friday with you on this show is give you a toolbox tool, but then also give an example of how to do that. Now, some of you may be saying to me, okay, fine, I can unplug. I can put away my phone. I cannot scroll. I can, shut down every night at 8:00. I'm sure somebody just panicked like, what? Let my phone go at 8? Yes, that would be a great time. But yes, let your phone go at a certain time. Or let's say you go one day of the week without looking at anything, no news, no social media, nothing. You just completely unplug. Sometimes you may need to unplug from family and friends too, with not having your phone on you and answering to so many text messages or phone calls. Do that as well. You may be looking at me and saying, but then Neena, if I do that, what should I be doing instead? You should be engaging in building your life and focusing on the things that you can control. So do you need to retrieve mental health services? If you unplug for a day, I'm pretty sure you won't be as frustrated as the norm, and you would be able to look for an individual who would best serve you for what you need. Or you could spend a day A lot of people plan out their meals, right? Meal prepping. You could be meal prepping for the rest of the week. You could use time to journal. You could use time to read, which is something that we're not doing anymore. That would be great to do. Read a good book. And it doesn't have to be political or with so much information. Just read something that will help you escape what's constantly in your mind, those racing thoughts that are consistently there. You can exercise really early, so that way when it's time for you to lay down, it's time for you to go to bed, you actually go to sleep and you get good rest and not just a tossing and a turning because you're thinking about everything that's going on in the world. So I think that when you do unplug, things will become more clear to you about what you need to focus on. In the beginning of this episode, I explained to you guys that I do think that during our time in COVID, we learned what was important. That was probably the biggest benefit of COVID, is that we began to meet with our families again. We began to come together as communities, as people, right? I think it would be important to start thinking about those things that did stand out to you at that time and begin to reflect on them now, begin to engage again, because some of us have lost our way since then. We couldn't wait to get right back out into the swing of things, which that's not a crime. There's nothing wrong with that. But now maybe we're a little bit too much out and we need to step back and have better balance in our lives. So I would say to unplug, remove social media, remove the news stations for a while, and take some time to self-regulate. A really good technique to use, which I'm going to give you to end our show today, is our Wellness in 60 Seconds. One of the greatest techniques that you can use for mental health services without having a professional in front of you is deep breathing techniques. So today I'm going to guide you as you close your eyes. I'm going to ask that you sit upright in a chair with your back against the chair. And I'm going to allow you to breathe in for 7 seconds and then out for 7 seconds. We're going to do this in reps of 4. And on the 4th rep, our breath out that we take will be for 8 seconds. Now, before I engage in the activity with you, I'm going to tell you that the proper way to deep breathe is to breathe in through your nose and to push out through your mouth. Okay? That's actually deep breathing. So you breathe in through your nose and you should be filling up where you feel your stomach filling up with air. And then you'll push out through your mouth. And at that point, you'll feel your stomach flatten and decrease because you're not holding a breath. On the 4th one, we're going to hold that breath. Remember, we'll breathe in for the 7 seconds and we'll hold it, and then we'll push out for 8 on the 4th one. Okay? So I'm going to participate with you. Let me sit up right in my chair. Let me take a drink of water so I can breathe. Alrighty. We'll start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through your nose. Again, in through your nose. And on this last one, we're going to breathe in through our nose, but hold 1, and out through your mouth. I'm going to open my eyes to speak to you, but I would prefer you keep your eyes closed. And I'm going to say that when you breathe out for the 8 seconds, you keep your eyes closed for a second, and you allow your body, your mind, your will, your emotions to come into one space in agreement with each other. And take a minute before just jumping up. Take a minute before thinking about your next step or what you will do after this, and just be. Just be for a second in your stability that you're creating. If doing it once does not help you out, I would share that you should do it at least 4 to 5 times throughout the day to help center you and to help balance you. I hope that this was helpful to you, and I am excited to speak with you each and every Friday so that we can go over activities like this. I want to thank you all for sitting with me on this episode of Mentally How Are You? It is my hope that you are leaving more stable than when you came in. See you next week.
No judgment, just love, so I can be me. I'm tired of hearing it's okay not to be okay. Just want the dark days to go away. Well, if you want